Once upon a time, there was a small Quaggan village named Kuludu. They had built their quaint village in a small cave somewhere north of Malcolm. The water was always clear, and the fish were always plentiful. There lived a Quaggan named Pula. Pula was a simple Quaggan who loved to go swimming and fishing in the bright blue waters around the village. Everyone was always happy, and she was the best singer in all of the village and would serenade the young ones each night before they went to sleep. However, Pula longed for adventure, but there was no adventure to be had in Kuludu, or so she thought. The great dragon Zaitan had been defeated by the Pact and its heroes long ago. But their resources were being strained day by day with the new threat of the jungle dragon Mortermoth. Their great ships and patrols that once kept the undead of war in check and away from Kurudu were beginning to turn their resources toward a new war. The Pact never knew about Kurudu. They were peaceful and had no interest in the outside world. They were unaware of the dangers that were awakening in the world around them and what was approaching. One fateful night in the village, the waters grew dark, and a dull moaning could be heard deep in the darkness. Pula was singing her good night tune to the young ones when these ominous waters gave rise to Risen Crate, who began attacking the village. Pula rushed outside to check on the commotion.
What's going on out here?
Pula was horrified at what she saw. The village guards were fighting as hard as they could against the horrible creatures, and they needed help. Pula had never seen Crate before, much less undead ones. They were terrifying. Every Quaggan that saw them ran inside of their homes to try to hide, but Pula couldn't let the guards fight alone, so she swallowed her fear and rushed in to help.
Ooh, Quaggans must protect the village. Be brave!
The battle went deep into the night, but eventually Pula and the guards managed to fight off the Risen. The village was in shambles. Homes were destroyed. Many were afraid. Would they ever be safe again? They closed their gates, and no one dared venture outside until one day a terrible decision had to be made. The village had to move. They were no longer safe where they were. The villagers of Kuludu had no idea where to go. Who would undertake the dangerous journey to find a new home? Pula was brave, but had never left the safe waters of Kuludu before and didn't quite know where to start. But she was eager for adventure, and she wanted to help. She went to the village elders.
Ooh, Pula will do it. Puladu must be safe. Quaggan doesn't know where she will go or what she will find, but Quaggan must try.
The oldest and wisest of the Quaggan elders told Pula of a great city he had once visited long, long ago, named Lion's Arch to the north. He explained that when he was a young Quaggan, he would see large ships that would sail north of the village. Pula decided to start her search there. The village gates were opened, and Pula stepped out alone as they closed behind her. She took a deep breath, even though she was underwater, and traveled north in search of a ship.
Nice.
Just clarification.
Ooh, Pula is scared. Pula must help the others. Pula won't give up.
Pula traveled what had felt like days, hiding during the night and sinking to the forests of seaweed during the day until she finally saw one, a ship with a huge lion proudly displayed upon its sail. This was it! She quickly swam to catch up and began to climb her way on board. Just as her fin peaked on deck, she was grabbed by a lookout and brought before the ship's captain, an angry-looking Asura named Flop.
Floppy Sam, sorry. Cut
Oh,
off.
Fluffy Sam.
Flop is actually a good name too, though.
It's a good name, though.
A stowaway, eh? Can someone tell me exactly what this Quaggan is doing on my ship?
Ooh, please, you have to help Quaggan. Our village was attacked and we need a new home. Quaggan has to get to Lion's Arch.
Village? There are no Quaggan villages out here. Besides, I have enough problems without another mouth to feed. Tell me, Quaggan, why exactly should I help you?
Quaggan is great at catching fish, and Quaggan can sing. Quaggan only needs help to Lion's Arch. Please, and Quaggan can go.
The captain had no care for our heroine's problems, and was ready to have Pula tossed overboard when another Quaggan spoke up.
Ooh, don't hurt her. We should be nice, not mean. Quaggan only wants help.
Paddle, are you seriously considering keeping this stowaway on board?
Ooh, she can help Paddle catch fish and take care of the cannons.
The captain mumbled and grumbled, mulling over the proposition. A few moments later, he spoke.
Paddle, for you, I'll make an exception. But the pair of you better bring in a double load of fish before sundown, or I'll have you both thrown over the side. But this stowaway is gone as soon as we reach Lion's Arch. Is that cooler?
Yes, sir, Captain Floppy. Quaggan will make sure you won't regret this.
Pula was on her way, and was very grateful for her new friend. Pula and Paddle became good friends and brought in a triple load of fish that day. Very nice. Paddle taught Pula several pirate songs, and they would sing together each night. Pula was amazed each day by the beautiful islands and the rolling waves. This was turning out to be a wonderful adventure. However, there was always a dark cloud to the east. Or. Pula told Paddle about her village and the crate, and how she had to find a new home. Paddle knew that he had to help his new friend.
Ooh, that's so terrible. Quaggans should help each other. Paddle will come with you to find a new home.
Pula was thrilled to have a friend to come with her. They both agreed to let the captain know as soon as they reached Lion's Arch. The ship was only a few nights away from Lion's Arch, but something foul was in the air. A mighty storm began to blow, and massive waves crashed across the ship. Lightning flashed, and thunder crashed. Pula had never seen such a thing. It was as if the sea itself had given in to the rage. The ship was tossed and shifted, but she held strong, while her crew rushed checking ropes and closing hatches.
Ooh, often wishes that she were under the sea instead of on top of it.
The storm raged on, and only seemed to get worse as they traveled on, the ocean water growing darker. When Pula smelled a foul stench in the air, Pula knew the smell and ran to tell Paddle.
Ooh, prisoner coming!
What? There haven't been any risen here since the pack destroyed Zaitan.
Suddenly, the lookout cried out, "Risen to starboard! They're heading right at us!"
Risen? What in the eternal alchemy are they doing here? Helmsman, hard to port. Take us into the storm. I require immediate velocity.
The ship turned and dropped its sails, attempting to outrun its risen pursuers, but the risen were gaining on them. The faster they ran, the deeper into the storm they plunged. The waves grew larger and the thunder cracked ferociously. The ship bobbled and shifted, while poor Pula struggled to hold on with Paddle right next to her. The risen ship was closing, their glowing red eyes piercing the dark veil of the night and harsh storm. Their moans growing louder with each moment. There was no other option. They couldn't outrun them. They had to turn. They had to fight.
Bring us about. Load cannons, Make preparation for impending conflict.
The ship's crew scrambled to load and push cannons into position as the ship's side turned to the risen ship. The risen approached, carrying with them an ominous green glow. The moans and screams of its undead crew could be heard even over the rage of the storm. The cannons were primed. The time had come.
This is it, lads. Let fly!
The ship's cannons opened fire in a furious barrage of fire, smoke, and iron. Pula had never heard such a terrifying sound. The entire deck shook, and the whole ship seemed to tilt from the force. The crew were screaming and shouting everywhere. "Load it up! Tie out that line!" Pula wanted to help, but she didn't know what to do. Paddle stayed by her side and handed her a spear. This wasn't the kind of adventure Pula had in mind. Both ships rode wave after wave in the storm, unleashing barrage after barrage of cannon fire upon one another in a dance of death, sending debris of wood and risen bones flying in all directions. Pula felt the rage inside of her building, but she tried everything to keep it away. But then she heard Paddle cry for help.
Ooh, ooh, risen in the water!
They were climbing up the sides of the ship. Pula grabbed her spear and rushed to help her new friend and started stabbing downward, knocking down wave after wave of risen with Paddle right by her side. They tried and tried, but there were too many risen, and eventually they were pushed back as fighting broke out on the ship's deck. The battle raged on, now out on the sea and on deck. The risen's dead eyes glowing red in the darkness, and their dead rotting faces only being revealed during brief flashes of lightning. Had never seen anything so terrifying, but she fought on, her rage building and building, but somehow she didn't transform.
Fire! Fire!
The captain exclaimed as another cannon volley was sent hurtling toward the risen ship. Cannonballs were tearing through the rotten flesh and bone, but not breaking the risen ship apart. Huge gaping holes filled the risen ship's center side, but it held together. The crew eventually cleared the deck, but more risen were coming. The ship's captain then made the decision to try throwing his hopes into a bold gambit.
Helmsman, new tact, full sails, ramming velocity.
The crew took up their rifles and began to open fire, with only the Risen's red eyes as their targets, as their brave ship drove directly toward the enemy at dangerous speed. The ship leaped wave after wave of the storm towards the Risen ship, gaining speed until the call was made.
Everyone, brace!
Pula and Paddle held on with all of their might as the two ships crashed into one another with furious impact.
Dramatic pause.
Gambit had worked. The Risen ship began to break in two as the pride of the Lion's Arch Navy drove through, unleashing a devastating barrage of cannon fire from both sides
User joined
to
your
finish the
channel.
job. The Risen ship was obliterated and sank into the deep along with its Risen crew. Whew. Huzzah! Cried our ship's crew, accompanied with a jubilant coo from their resident Quaggan companions. Coo! Coo! The night was won. The Risen ship was sunk beneath the waves, flaming barrels being sent into the depths behind to burn their remains. It's a bit odd that you're throwing flames on the ocean, but never mind. The entire crew celebrated and sang with songs of victory and rum. Of course, always the rum. While the captain discussed with his quartermaster and navigator about the ship's damage and their course. After some time, he approached Pula and Paddle.
Pula, it seems I misjudged you. No Quaggan that I have ever met would have stood its ground against risen pirates as you did. I hereby proclaim you to be an honorary member of our crew and place Paddle as your personal bodyguard. However, I have grave news. The ship isn't going to make it to Lion's Arch.
This trip was going to be longer than Pula thought. Continued in Quaggan Adventure Saga, Episode 2, The Howls of the Unknown.
Woo! Yay!
I have to say, the music really made it work.
Good job, Simba. We all appreciate your effort put into story Quaggan time.